And then we can talk and everything just to see if it's preparing to live stream. See us? Okay.
That's super opposite. If you want.
I'm gonna mute this phone call and we're gonna talk over there and let me know. Hello? Hello? Do we have audio?
Right.
Do we have audio? Did you hear anything?
Yeah.
Okay, so. How do I fix that?
Thanks, Betty. He's all right.
Awesome.
Great. Hello, everybody. We're just waiting for one select board member to arrive. And as soon as she does, we'll begin our special select board meeting. This portion of the meeting will be to discuss the warrant articles and come to a final vote on what's going to move forward to town meeting on 11 March 2025. And then at 6 p.m., we will start the discussion of our plans for road reconstruction and repair for 2025 and beyond. So please hold on. Anything anyone would like to say at this point?
It is not a non-public session contrary
Yes,
to what
that was a
got
mistake for
posted
some reason,
on
yeah.
the website. So we're
So-
gonna record it and this is an open discussion.
All right, we'll give Wendy a few more minutes and then we'll
Steve said that everything's good to go on YouTube.
great,
He's
great,
watching it.
great. Has anyone contacted Wendy? Is she just delayed?
I have not.
Could you just check
contacted
and
her.
see what
Well,
her status is? Thank you. The roads are looking very nice now. I saw you guys out when I was out and about earlier today and they were doing their thing, but they look pretty, looks like it's pretty much down to the pavement in a lot of areas, at least the areas I traveled.
Yep, trying to keep
Good.
it that way. We just cleared off the sidewalk as well, the bridge and everything, so that is also clear
Right,
for pedestrian traffic, so.
good. Yeah, no, it's good. It's kind of one of those crazy storms, right?
Mhm.
So it didn't turn out to be as bad as I think they were forecasting.
No,
But you know, we'll catch up on that at the next storm, I'm sure.
yeah.
Well,
Just how it
Saturday and
works.
Sunday,
the biggest issue is gonna be the temperatures going down.
Yeah, tonight, but
yeah, they just laid some salt, so that way.
yeah. It's not gonna get so cold that the salt won't work, right? Or is it just, or it's close?
Not
Teens.
that I saw, I mean,
High
it
teens.
should be okay right now.
Mhm. Yeah, I was out earlier today and I saw two cars fishtail, and it wasn't me. I wasn't one of them.
I saw a truck on 93 that it was heading north, I was coming south. And it had spun around, it was facing the
Oh,
wrong way,
wow. Yeah,
partly out into the lane. I think the guy was trying to decide whether to, I think he had to pull out even further to make the turn, and
waiting for traffic to clear.
there wasn't much traffic, but
Yeah.
all it takes is one.
Yeah, one person coming at speed.
Go make another copy for
Yeah.
Dan.
And Wendy's on her way? Yeah,
She's on
okay,
her way.
great. You can probably turn off the audio while we're waiting for Wendy, so.
I'm all set, yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Let me know when we're good. All right, thank you. Hello again, everybody. It is 13 February 2025, and this is a special meeting of the Waterville Valley Select Board. And we're here to discuss first the warrant articles and to finalize and vote on what we want to bring forward to town meeting on 11 March 2025. I believe that's all we have on the agenda today. Is
Yep.
that correct?
That's it.
So I would ask my select board compatriots and Patty Fergal, who's here, the town moderator. Is there anything they would like to bring up at this point? With regards to the warrant?
You know, Article 9,
Mhm.
should we look at rewording that? Or making, I know we'd heard some feedback from one of the property.
Yeah, no, that was a big topic of discussion at
Yeah.
our at a budget and bond hearing not that long ago. I've been thinking about that myself. I think I mean, we could reword it, but it's more a question of discussion, right? When we're not trying to limit discussion.
Right,
So how can we word it to make it clear that we're not trying to limit discussion to either a yes or no answer,
exactly,
but
yeah,
rather,
I wondered why we should have majority vote required at the end of it. I don't know why,
Okay.
why would even say
That's
that.
fine. Yep, I take that
Well-
off.
okay, good point.
um,
Do we want to make it more of a advice into the meeting on just simply the questions involving the construction of a sewer line?
yeah,
I mean, that just, I mean,
Whether or
it's
not-
on Snows Mountain Road and it opens it up to people to talk about either for or against it, but also to present I mean, that our intent was to present alternatives. For allow people to present alternatives. It wasn't just an up or down vote.
Right.
We're looking for input, advice from the town as a board, right?
right. And because it's an expensive project. And looking at, well, our most recent project, in the north end, along River Road and all that, so many people have not yet connected. And I know, Bob, you'd mentioned that it'd be worth doing a survey
Yeah.
for the residents.
I mean, to me, the first question is whether the town would support
Yeah.
spending $2 million.
Yeah, that's the
Right.
gateway question.
Right.
And if the answer to that is no, then how do you deal with those people up there?
Right,
Or don't you, what's the next step then if they're not gonna be connected?
right,
If they are gonna be connected and people wanna
Right.
spend $2 million,
It's a non-issue, right?
then, yeah, I mean, I don't know how many you're gonna connect or not, but if the town wants to spend the money, it would be like West Branch Road
right.
and,
But the sewer line itself is $2 million.
the sewer
Yeah.
line's 2 million.
That's the
Because of
preliminary,
the Need for the high pressure lines.
right, that's the preliminary estimate, right? And so, I mean, the major, as I understood the criticism, or at least the commentary at a budget and bond hearing, it seemed to be forcing a vote one way or the other, rather than opening a discussion about what to do.
Right,
So maybe we just need to change
Well,
it to,
It's an
yeah, go ahead.
article, so you have to move it. And it's gotta pass or fail,
Yeah, I mean,
pass or
that's,
not pass, so I think it
I think-
has to be,
I think the discussion comes
Motion.
after. I think.
Okay,
I think it has to say,
as it is,
Craig said something that I think he was shooting himself in the foot a little bit, but he said at the last meeting that if a house, just in general, if a property has sewer and water going by it, it ups the value of the house.
Mhm.
Well, the other side of that is, if it doesn't have sewer and water going by, presumably your assessment is less
mm,
Mhm.
than it would otherwise be if you,
Yeah, I
if
would
you
think
take
so,
him.
yeah. Yeah,
So in
Theoretically.
effect, whether it's an equal
right,
deduction, in effect, if you take what he said, the people that aren't connected are already saving money because their house is being devalued.
Was that part of the conversation with when we did the reval recently, Mark? Do you remember?
I think that I
It
think
would have to
that
be,
he
right,
would
whether or not
say
there's
that
access to a,
whether there's access to public water
So
and
that-
public
that
sewer
was
is
part of-
is a
right,
probably a differential. I mean, I don't know a dollar amount of that, but yes,
it's something.
I would say it would be something.
It's,
Yeah.
so,
I
Yeah,
did some
Dan?
reading and it did not. The reading the articles and such I read did not indicate that there would be an increase in property values by having a sewer line.
Yep.
So his
That's-
statement, while notionally it sounds like it would be correct, it's not clear to me that that is a correct statement
I don't-
with respect to property valuation.
It would only improve the property value if it led to higher sales prices, because all of our property values
Right.
are based on the market. So if the market thinks that it's a plus, they'll be higher valued. I don't know if there is it does or it doesn't trend that the assessor would say, yes, we definitely see a difference, but it's gonna be up to the market. If
Yeah.
the market doesn't care that they have a septic system, then
the other
Fine.
thing is that, let's say that the town said overwhelmingly, we don't want it,
Mm.
that we don't want to spend $2 million. Then, then I think would have to decide what to do. I think if you were gonna do a district, a sewer district, it would have to be the rest of the town, it would be the sewer
It would be
district,
Right.
not
the
Reed Hill.
opposite.
right,
Cause you can't have,
correct,
you
Right,
can't form a district for nothing.
right,
right, it would be the
So
opposite.
it's the absence of sewer, you can't
absolutely,
Yeah.
form a district for that.
right.
Exactly.
So the rest of the town would be a sewer district and they would be excluded.
Well,
But to me, that comes after we found
Well,
We
what the
make a
sense of the
decision
meeting
on
is.
this,
the reason that Article 9 is there is because of Article 8.
right.
Because the
yeah, yeah.
$100,000
Right.
is for, and I gotta look at the wording of this, but this is for the final engineering
But
of the road. I think it's a cut and paste issue right now with the wording that you see right here.
Okay.
It is for the engineering for the road, water, and sewer lines on
Mhm.
Snow's Mountain
we
Road.
don't say that, we
No.
should add that to.
Well, no, what I'm saying is I think I cut and pasted the wrong article. I have to, that is what we briefed the
Right.
bond hearing. This is for the engineering for that. And the idea behind Article 9 is if there was a 72-0 no sense of the meeting, then the work that they would do under Article 8
Would not
would
include.
not include the sewer work.
Right.
We want to know whether or not to engineer the sewer line. And that's why I put it here as Article 9, so
To
that
engineer.
you could get that. And Patty, maybe we talk through Article 9 before you start voting on Article 8 and just explain that
Why
that's
don't you just, why
why
don't you just swap
it's
them
there.
What-
You can't,
Okay.
by law, Article 8 has to be there.
Oh,
Well.
The bond articles have to be first.
oh,
Can Article 8 be for engineering
It-
and Article 9 be to add to the engineering above to include sewer
Well,
for all that? And
it's,
that would be a yes or no, you get your answer, yes or no. Cause I think in the end, this is very ambiguous to see whether or not. So when people are voting, they have to be clear. I have to make sure they're clear on what they're voting for.
Right.
So the whether or not, I can't say that to them. I can't say vote on that because it's not clear. I think.
well, whether or not means a yes vote, you want to do the engineering to construct a sewer line.
I'm not comfortable.
Well, how would
with
you
it.
word it
I
if
would
otherwise?
say, get rid of the whether or not and just say two.
Okay,
To engineer
Yeah.
Mhm.
and construct. Yeah,
Right.
that's
And
more
then
clear.
That's
that way,
fine.
If it's yes,
Yeah,
they're
that's fine.
voting yes. If they're voting no, they're
Yeah.
voting no.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's not,
it's a meeting vote. It's not binding on you.
Right, we still
To
have
do
to
it.
decide
You,
whether we want
you
to
would
take it into
still
account.
have to vote whether or not to engineer it.
But
Right.
are we backing ourselves into a corner? We say it's not binding, but if it is 72-0, then it feels like everyone's gonna walk out of that meeting feeling like it was binding. I mean, so is this,
Well, there's
If the-
no legal. There's no money involved here,
no,
so
I mean, I
it's not a
understand all
legal
that.
thing.
but I just think if
Well,
people.
yeah,
Is there not money involved? Because the $100,000
because
above.
The
includes
100,000, well, it
sewer
includes
engineering.
it, but it's not a line item. That 100,000 is not broken down by the engineer that it's
Right,
40,000 for the road, 30,000 for the water and 30,000 for the sewer. That's not, we got a price estimate of $100,000 to give us finished
Right.
plans. So I don't have that breakdown from.
and
the
it's up
engineers.
to, so.
And it's up to 100,000.
Correct, but for all practical purposes, if we vote in 8, we have already voted in 9.
But the problem is 8 takes an hour long discussion or an hour long vote because it's a bond article.
should we add up to?
It is,
Oh, it is up to,
A
By
some-
definition, isn't it?
by definition, you are being authorized to apply for, obtain, blah, blah, blah.
so the answer to
The
your
funding.
question, I think.
Not more
would
than
be,
100,000.
If we don't do it, then we might only spend 75 or 80 or 60
Yeah,
or something.
Exactly.
I mean, I think, I'm sorry, did you have something you
No,
wanted to say?
go ahead.
I mean, I think Patty's fix makes it more clear. I
What
think
they're
it-
voting on.
But and it comes out through the discussion that we're talking about up to 100,000.
Mhm.
It would be something less if the town decided it did not want to engineer
sewer
a
line.
sewer line, but it's not gonna be appreciably less. But it's still up to 100,000.
Right.
And it is advisory. I mean, I think we say that we're asking for your advice.
But if
This
it's
doesn't bound
72
our
to
vote.
nothing, the board would be silly to not
It-
Right.
do what.
Of
yeah,
course,
they want.
We'd be
But
backed into a
but I think,
corner,
yeah,
but
So would we change the wording then from what it says here?
should
which
we-
wording?
Well, from what we're looking at, what's printed.
We're gonna take out on whether or not. The words
and-
on whether or not.
To engineer, sensitive meaning to
To
engineer.
engineer and construct a sewer line on Snows Mountain Road
And majority vote required.
and a majority vote required.
That's,
Right.
no, but that's out,
And
right?
did we
No,
not
but-
have
we-
before
but
that
you
this
can-
was non-binding?
Well, that's why it says advisory.
Sense.
It says
Well, I
advisory
understand that,
sense.
But before we had the explicit words in there that said non-binding,
Right.
and that's an important consideration for people because.
I mean, we could bring that all out in the discussion. I mean, there's a very clear. Direct statement warrant article, right? Whether, well, not the whether or not, but who. And then in the discussion, we
Well,
can make these points
No, I
about
can
not
change the
binding.
words and advisory to will vote
Non-binding
as a non-binding sense of meeting
meeting, yeah,
vote
no, that's a nice.
to
thing.
engineer and construct a sewer line on Snows Mountain.
Right,
A non-binding discussion, no, it does end up being a vote in the
It's a
end.
vote.
It
It's
just,
really, it's,
I feel like we're backing ourselves into a corner.
well, I mean,
In what way?
yes, in
what
a way,
Because it's advisory, but say it's overwhelmingly people vote no. Or yes, maybe they say overwhelmingly people vote yes, but then we find out it's gonna be $4 million to do
You haven't
this.
appropriated any money
No,
for
I
the sewer
know,
line.
I know that, but at that point, everyone thinks, okay, we've solved this, we're gonna do it. But then as a select board, do we think it's prudent to go forward and spend double what we'd expected?
But you're gonna
like-
have another conversation though. next
later,
year.
next year.
Yeah.
Next year, you're
This
gonna
This
appropriate
was
the
the
actual
advice,
money.
this was the non-binding,
Here's,
but
Right.
you told us you wanted to
it
do it,
wasn't to
Yeah.
me.
We went out and got it
turned out to
designed.
be.
Okay,
and now here's
The
the
cost.
actual
Okay.
Right,
cost.
right,
And
So
you
then-
vote for
okay,
another
right.
warrant.
so
article.
there's that, so
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
so now
There's
take
that
it in,
fail
so
safe.
now take it in the inverse.
yeah,
right,
So say people say no,
Right.
and we find some really compelling reason or an easier way to do it. Maybe something
Bring it.
comes along. Well, I just worry that we're just setting people up for an expectation that doesn't cover all the possibilities of what could happen over the next.
I mean, I
year.
think we need to bring that out in discussion.
Okay.
I mean, I like the idea of a clear warrant article, and then discussion hopefully will bring out these nuances
Hmm.
and important discussion points, trying to cover that in all the,
Yeah,
in a
Well,
warrant article.
I do, there is an important part of what Wendy
Yeah, yeah.
just said.
Okay.
If town meeting voted no on Article 9,
Right,
I don't think it would be appropriate for the board to
Well-
do anything else with the engineering of the sewer line, because no means no.
yes,
but
but
it's
it-
advisory.
it's advisory, but to
non-binding.
me, the real
That's-
problem won't be a obvious yes or no, but it'll be a very
Close
close,
vote.
a very close vote where we're, it's just maybe 3 or 4 vote difference on what to do.
If it were a very close vote, I would bring it back with an actual warrant article for an
Yeah.
amount of
Yeah,
money
I think that's
for
the
the
way.
sewer, for the sewer
Right.
engineering,
Right.
and then have
Right.
the
Because
conversation.
it shows the town is
Yeah.
divided, so here's the here's the
Exactly.
number,
Here's the actual.
here's the actual number.
Yeah.
Rich, you have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes,
The
hi.
text says, hi, Annalise. The text only says Snows Mountain Road. Can we specify that it also means the offshoots of Snows Mountain Road, like Wheel Hill Road, Jasinski's Way and all of those?
Yeah, I think we gotta change the wording. I think we'll say the Snows Mountain Project area, because we have a
Okay,
map
yeah.
that shows all the
Yeah,
roads.
perfect. As long as. it's
Yeah.
inclusive.
Okay, should we go on to the next one?
Yeah.
So just change that to 2 as Patty
Yeah.
suggested, and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
let's bring it out in the discussion. Any other comments on any of the other articles?
Yeah.
I mean, I've said this a number of times, but I remain concerned that the petitioned article is so late in the meeting. I'm not sure I have a clear and satisfying solution to that, to my concern.
Can I just ask, so you're on the record, are these all 3-0 votes if you don't
Oh,
to
I
support,
suppose we need to,
recommend them,
yeah, I mean,
I think so.
I think so.
starting at Article 7 and moving on?
Yep, I mean, we
Yeah.
push these forward, other than the petition article, right?
I'm wondering on Article 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah,
Given some input we've gotten from Stan and some other people about the tax rate, whether or not we ought to preface these 3 articles by saying the town, at a town sense of the meeting, although it was late, couple of years ago, there was a sense of the meeting that the town should set aside some money
Mhm.
for projects, so we don't have to borrow as much.
right,
And the result of that is on Articles 10, 11, and 12, which are each $50,000, is setting money aside for those 3 projects.
Mhm.
And if the town doesn't want to do that, it would take about 20 cents off the tax rate,
21 cents,
the
right.
current proposed tax rate. So before we discuss those articles and before we vote on them.
Can we raise
you
that
should-
point?
Can we raise
Yeah.
that point and say,
Right, Patty?
well, you,
You can, move the article and then.
yeah, and
say
I'll
that.
do
Yeah,
that
that's what I would-
explanation. Yeah,
That,
I'll include
these are
that
all
in
of
the
a-
script.
these are all of a
But it would
piece.
be after we have moved Article 10.
move the first
Yeah,
one?
you move the first one and we'll talk about all 3 of them.
Yeah.
But they're all connected.
Okay,
Right.
very good. Yeah, I
Would
can do
would
that.
I think
work?
that
No, I think
addresses,
Yeah, yeah.
say,
I
hey,
agree 100%.
Yeah.
So again, we deal with that in the discussion after
Yeah.
the article is moved.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're all set through Article 11 at 3-0.
Yeah.
To recommend. Article 12, okay.
Yeah, no, I think we all voted on these in our.
Water
various-
distribution, wastewater
All of them.
collection system,
Yeah.
they're all good.
They're
Yeah.
all,
All right.
well, I won't say good, but we all
Yeah.
agreed.
Well,
You
I'm
could put
to-
it
to
with
forward.
these
recommend
expenditures.
3-0.
Right,
Right.
right. I don't think any of
Okay.
us disagreed with any of it.
Oh.
The big one might be Article 25.
Mhm.
But that's a little complicated if you're talking about money articles. but I think we're all 3-0 in all of these.
Yeah.
Okay,
Till we get to, Article 30,
okay,
which was not our warrant article, but a petitioned article.
Right. So it's
Right.
not even a matter of us weighing in at that point, right?
Are we clear on 28 with the participants?
I have a meeting with Alan next week. And I'll make sure that we have the map set. Megan and I are gonna sit down with him and have the right-of-way map drawn up.
Okay. So we're all,
His engineer already has the map.
okay,
done,
so we just have to get that clarification, but
Mhm.
pending that clarification, we're 3-0
Yep,
all the way up to Article
29.
29.
And you
Yep.
you do not, you can put by petition as it says here. And you do not have to unless you want to provide a recommendation
On Article 30.
on Article 30.
I just say by petition.
Yeah. I'll say by petition.
I would agree with that.
Okay,
Okay,
And the others are just, ministerial, so
Right.
anything
So
else on
I
the town
will-
meeting warrant?
I will call you when all the edits have been made and it's ready for your signature. So that we can get
Right.
it posted,
Right. Do we need an actual formal vote to approve?
the warrant as amended.
All right, so I will move to approve the warrant as amended today. This is the 2025 town meeting warrant, edit 3
Yep, edit 3 with further amendment.
with further amendment. Any,
Second.
can I have a second? All in favor?
I,
Aye, okay,
And I will do a find and replace on select board. and
Yeah.
fix it.
very good. Great. Is there any other business for our special select board meeting other than
don't.
the?
I don't have anything.
All righty, so why don't we, did we advertise it, excuse me, notice it as a public hearing or just simply
Just
as
a presentation.
a
discussion.
presentation? So
Yep.
I'd like to move now to a presentation and discussion of the town road improvements that the select board and town staff have been discussing the last several months. You know, some of this came up at our budget and bond hearing, but I think we committed at that point to have a more formal presentation.
At the very top, there should be.
So I will turn it over to,
All right, so I'm gonna
I will
start.
turn it
and
over
then
to the
Megan's
town
gonna talk
manager
about
since he's already taken it over anyway.
That's okay.
Over to you.
So. All right, so yeah, we want to provide you with more information about all of the road projects because that is the bonding that we have. It's all related to roads, portion of our infrastructure. Next slide.
Is the lighting good for everybody? We don't need
Slide,
to
good, okay.
turn off that one bank. Good.
Let's hear it.
Okay.
All right. So first of all, just to answer a couple of general questions, like why are we doing this? We have an extensive repair and replacement resurfacing program that involves all of our roads in town. We do it primarily because we, in the past, until the last 3 or 4 years, we have taken roads in very small sections and we've taken them when they're in very bad shape. And that's when we have been doing improvements to the roads. It actually has been shown and Megan, I'm sure, has seen in her classes. I've heard in classes that I've been to about road surface management that you don't always wait until the road has completely fallen apart because you actually spend more money repairing it than if you resurface. So there are projects. Yes, Dan.
Are we not actually doing full reconstruction in some cases on these roads?
No, but for
I
the
mean, you're
roads that
removing
we're
a base layer, and it's not just repaving these roads.
when we say a full treatment of the road, that means reclaiming the pavement, digging down, removing material, bringing material, new material in and rebuilding the base.
Right,
That may be part of what we do on Boulder Path Road. So for a portion of this bonding, yes. But on roads, the other roads that we'll talk about, and Megan will go over this in detail, we're not planning on doing a full reconstruction. We're overlays. And the reason is so that we don't spend more money down the literal road, making repairs. So if,
okay, I differ in my assessment of this because, in fact, earlier we were discussing the need to like improve all the drainage associated, and you can see it on your little map right up there, right?
yes,
So that's fairly significant reconstruction.
but Snow's Mountain is not in these roads. In this warrant article, it is not included.
Yes, okay.
So I'm talking specifically about this $2.3 million
Okay.
warrant article.
And the intent is to pave over the existing surface?
We got slides that show you each of the road sections that we're planning to do and the improvements that we're planning to make.
Okay,
So we are trying to be as cost effective in the money that we're spending and we'll show you what that means as we go along. We do want to keep the roads as safe as possible. We purposely do not have dirt roads here in town because the maintenance of dirt roads is much more difficult and time consuming, and we want the best roads that we possibly can afford. And we also ensure that, and you'll see this on the next slide. Go ahead, Megan.
Trying to fix it online real quick.
Okay, is it not working?
It's working now. It
Oh.
was showing a different screen.
Okay, fine. So this shows you the green highlighted roads are the roads that we have completed within the last, how many years, Megan? 3 or 4?
Great.
3. And then yellow are proposed for this warrant article. The red are out future years. The pink ones,
Pink is
Difference?
only.
Boulder Path.
Boulder Path is pink. That will not be reconstructed in 2025. We'll finish the planning and the engineering and put it out to bid. We're appropriating the money because the engineering costs are part of that quote that we've received, the cost estimate that we've received from the engineer, and we want to put it out to bid before the next town meeting. So that's why we're asking for the 1.8 million portion for Boulder Path Road this year. And Megan will talk about each one of the 2025/2026 roads.
what would the action be then at the next meeting?
The next meeting would only be if our actual bids came in higher or lower. You could de-obligate money if they came in significantly lower. That's a town meeting vote. Or if the bid comes in higher than the 1.8 million that we have budgeted right now, then the select board could
Right.
decide to submit a warrant article for town meeting to vote on to get to that bid.
But this year's warrant article is actually a higher amount, correct?
This year's warrant article is the maximum amount on the cost estimates that we have received. And again, we've got a slide just
Of several roads.
specifically.
So the 1.8 that you're holding in your pocket, it really, if our warrant article is for a higher amount.
Yeah.
In fact, we could draw from some of that
Mhm.
Yes,
as
we could.
needed. If the
Yes.
bid comes in at 2, for instance.
Correct. Yeah.
Because the number, I think we're voting on is what, 2.4?
2.3.
Yeah,
2.3.
we're gonna
Thank
go, we're gonna go through that in just a second. And you'll see how all the money goes together because each slide has a money amount associated with it. But this just shows what the plan is to address all of the roads in town graphically. Go ahead. And this is the slide that shows you the years that each one of those roads are in the current plan to be done. All right, any questions on these? I want to get to each of the individual roads that we're actually talking
I
about.
would just make the point that this is based on, not that we're following it exactly, but an analysis that was done by the town's road engineers several years ago
Yes,
relating to the condition of each of the roads
correct.
and how to approach them.
And going back to my first slide, which is you overlay roads when they're not in too bad a shape.
Right, to keep
So
them
that you
from-
don't have
right.
to completely rebuild them in the future.
And
So-
I think also, about 3 years ago, we were getting criticized by some people in town that the roads hadn't been kept up. And so over the last 3 years, we've spent a fair amount of money on roads
Indeed.
and we're continuing that process, so.
And this is, all of these roads are in our overall 6-year capital program. Spread out as they're shown on here, and we have general cost estimates from the engineering firm that we've included as budgetary numbers, and we'll refine those numbers year to year as we go through the capital program. All right, I'm turning it over. to you.
Can you go back one, please? So. We are not showing anything that's happening on Snowsbrook Road until 2030.
It was already done.
We just did it.
We just finished it last year.
Yeah, so if we
Well,
go back
so-
to the town map, the significant reconstructions that we did, over the past few years was Tecumseh Valley Road, Snowsbrook to the, intersection of Village, including Osceola, and we did just an overlay, 3 to 6 inch overlay over the top of Snows Mountain, which actually helped save the road in the December 2023 storm. If we had not done that significant of an overlay, then we would have lost multiple portions of the road.
But if we are going to put water lines up that road.
Yep.
And also sewer line, let's say we do that. Aren't we going to have to then?
We
do
will,
something before
and,
Yes.
and
2030?
that's why we did not do a complete reconstruction of Snows Mountain Road beforehand. All we did was get it to the point, because at the time that we did that overlay, we did not know whether or not we wanted to put water and sewer lines. We've been having that.
Right, I
discussion.
remember the discussion at the time, Dan, it was this, in my mind anyway, this is more of a Band-Aid to get us the few years we need before we do the full reconstruction, as expensive as it was.
Cause it wasn't really even plowable
Right.
in the condition
Yeah,
it was.
living up there, you couldn't even hardly, if we hadn't done it last year, we would not have been able to drive.
Yeah, I'm not disputing any of that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that the way it comes across with respect to your schedule is that we are.
This is Snows Brook, not Snows Mountain.
Ah,
We're talking about
Snowsbrook.
two. Yeah.
Gotcha. Never
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
Snowsbrook's up there. Okay. Yeah, here's Snows Mountain.
Oh, it's there.
Okay. Okay, I got you.
Now it's me.
I need better glasses.
So obviously, in the plan, we have the 1.8 in there for the Boulder Path reconstruction. You'll see here, the orange outlines, it will be, what's being proposed is a full reconstruction of the road, to include the sidewalk, granite curbing, things like that. Currently, there are very few drainage structures on Boulder Path. And so with this new plan, you can see all these beautiful, purple circles. Those are all catch basins, all drainage structures that would go into Boulder Path to help the water shed correctly and go into, not just down the road in the ruts and off into other roads. Actually get displaced somewhere to then go into our storm drainage systems. In the past, it's very heavily used road in town. And so if you travel the road, you'll see the wheel ruts. Just over time usage, it just wears down. We're hoping that the subsurface is a okay material and that we can try and reuse some of it, but currently it is a full reconstruction.
Can you describe where the drainage problems are? Cause I've never noticed puddles or anything driving down that road, so I just want an
Yeah,
idea
absolutely.
of where that is,
So
where the problems are.
right now we have a lot of water that comes off the Snows Mountain, being at the elevation and the pitch that it is. It'll come down and it just runs, there's wheel ruts right down the center of each lane. So it just travels pretty much either the edge of the road or in those wheel ruts down. We have 2 drainage structures, 3. I believe there's one here and one here that are semi above the paved surface, so they don't actually collect any of the water until the water is at a high level. So you won't see a lot of standing water on the road per se. It's mostly in the wheel ruts in the road.
And there's big puddles at the intersection area there
And then
and
here as
there.
well.
And then the sidewalk in front of the tennis courts has been a serious problem with erosion and drainage running down the sidewalk itself. All of those issues would be addressed.
I think too, we had to spend a lot of money to repair portions of this road after the December
We did.
23, especially along the golf
Along
the golf course
Those
property.
road- the
That was
rut-
really, it was really dug out,
And that's what those.
which may be the
patches
new
are.
normal. I mean, that's the other issue.
Are there existing water lines and sewer lines and such that run through that road as well?
Not through the
Mhm.
road, no.
The idea of adding water and sewer lines, which we'll come on to, is to deal with one, a non-existent sewer line that would be helpful there, but also 50-year-old water lines that
Right.
we
That's
want to
why I
have a
asked the
backup.
question. Do we have
Yeah,
anything that we need to fix along the way as part of fully reconstructing this road?
not
Yes,
I don't
fixed,
have an issue
add,
with reconstructing
Add.
the road, it's just, I wanna make sure if we're gonna do it.
adding water and sewer
Let's do
lines.
what needs to be done.
And it's been engineered to great lengths by our town engineers, so. But there is currently 2 water lines, one of which that runs through here.
We
the
cannot
other one
finish,
over
yeah,
there.
we cannot finish the water and sewer line, cannot answer the water and sewer line question until we get definitive decisions on Snows Mountain. Because the tie-in between the two is going to impact the design a lot.
The
So,
idea is to reroute.
Yeah.
A backup lines in that area while we have the road open.
right, so that we don't have to break it open again soon.
And
Okay,
I
and where
wanna-
would those be?
We don't know
rerouted
yet.
to?
We don't know
We
yet.
don't know.
No, they'd be in the road layer.
They'll be in the
Correct.
road that between the orange lines.
Yeah.
But we don't know where or what it would look like.
I just wanna speak a little bit to the sidewalks, cause I know this is a very well-traveled walking road and, you know, there's
Nice
been a
fun.
lot of discussion about the sidewalks. It is currently proposed that the sidewalk would come to the edge of the road, but it would be like, on Valley is right now where you have the raised,
Curbing.
curbing
Yeah.
and the granite curbing. It would actually have granite curbing on both sides of the road to help the drainage as well. So you will see that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
for the
have
plans.
further meetings, once we get through town meeting, we need to have further community discussions about. Because we have possible plans for the sidewalk on either side of the road. And we need to talk through.
Right.
What the community's
I mean,
preference
the
is.
idea here this year for town meeting is to get authorization for what we think will be the most expensive version of this, so we have the ability to deal with these sorts of
Do the final
where-
design.
final
one
design
by
where
one.
people want
The
things.
most, the most expensive would be having the side work on the east side, the opposite side.
From where it
where it
is
is
now.
Where it
now.
is now. Yeah.
That would be the most expensive version.
I think
Is
it's a
there
question,
anybody else
yeah.
thinking of doing a separate sidewalk for walkers versus bikers? Cause I don't know how many times I'm almost run over by bikers and they don't care about you at all.
Currently, that was not proposed. It is proposed. It is an 8-foot sidewalk, again, but it would have the granite curbing. But as far as two separate ones, that is not proposed at this
Well,
time.
part of the reason for that is that our right of way isn't large enough,
Mhm.
that we had it surveyed and it's just not wide enough to have that wide
Is
of
the
a,
intent then to share it or have it as a sidewalk for walkers and
Yeah.
for kids under 14?
Yeah, well, 8 feet is 3 feet beyond the usual
Mhm.
width
It
of a
doesn't bother
sidewalk.
me.
I understand, because like you, I walk that off, I used to walk that often anyway. It is an issue, right?
But I'm glad they're not doing that, I'm sorry. Glad you're not doing the low one that's on.
That.
No, no,
that is
not like
I-
Snowsboro,
I've
no.
almost got run over by a car who was driving in that lane. That's not a safe solution.
No, that's not what's being proposed here.
Thank you.
So are we no longer going to have the ones that the street is the walking path?
For this,
Going to have
for
a-
this,
For
no.
Boulder Path.
But why? Why
What-
there and not some?
Per the engineer, we brought that design up the way it is on Valley and the rest of town, like on Snows Brook.
Mhm.
It was not going to work for the way that Boulder Path was laid out.
Because
We
it's a
had
drainage.
It's
to-
drainage
there's
issues.
a
Yeah, it-
stormwater drain.
Everything from basically West Branch Road by BBTS, everything goes down towards Snows Brook. Okay, the intersection. So we couldn't have a completely flat surface because we couldn't control the stormwater. And so the curbing is critical for all of these
Yeah.
inlets to be part of the curbing so
I
that
mean-
the water will stay and go in.
I mean,
the
the
drain.
December 23 storm
Yeah.
really showed that. I mean, Craig could speak to the sort of gouging that occurred on his property because of that, but drainage. Yeah, it was pretty bad, but I think there's another question. Back there.
With all these extra storm drains going along the golf course, can we get like smaller holes so I won't lose so many golf balls?
We can
I've seen you play.
You know what I mean?
You know, I was wondering if the drainage comes off the mountain. Do we really need the curbing on the east side?
Well, the engineer has.
yeah.
has said that.
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead,
there's
Craig.
two things. One, I'd prefer it on the east side. Because I can landscape up against it. I can't landscape up against a road that easy.
Hmm.
The other thing is the sidewalk by the tennis course is there. So you're connecting into that already and keep it all contiguous all the way straight through.
So
It'd
what?
be easier. What?
So what?
So that it's normal, you stay on one side of the road, the whole length of the road, and it's normal. It'd be easier for landscaping, and then at the corner there where, I have that sleigh right there now.
Mhm.
I would like to move the gazebo over there, and I would like to include the sidewalk into it. And also go up a little bit further with the sidewalk to include the 10 parking spots that we have on the road now that are kind of hard to define, but if we could define it with a sidewalk, then we could put in a Vista parking area because there's always people parking on this road.
Right,
So I think you could put a sign that said Vista parking
right onto the right
right on
side.
that
So when you
side.
say we could do all this, who do you mean, you or?
I
the
could,
golf
well, I
course or
I would
the
do the gazebo. I would landscape that corner. All I want is a sidewalk. I'll take care of the rest.
I mean, I think the issue for the town will be, if we pursue this plan, the difference in the cost is roughly $500,000.
Which I don't understand, but that's fine, but, it would work better for me on the east side. And it would be contiguous all the way straight through. There's that little black line there that's kind of screwed up a little bit where the sidewalk now kind of goes up and around.
Mhm.
Is that would disappear. The other thing is that I could landscape better on that side than what's going on there right now.
Well, I think this is a future discussion, but I mean, in my mind, it's not worth spending the extra money to go on the east sides. I think it's about $400,000 based on the current
Well,
estimates.
Yeah, I don't really.
It seems to me it's just not worth it.
Yeah,
That's me.
Yeah, well, you don't have bids, so it doesn't really matter at
Right.
the moment,
Right.
so let's send it out to bid and let's talk about it when it gets out to bid.
Right.
You don't have a bid.
Right. No, the idea here is just to go with the top amount, so we have
Right,
the
and when Mark
authorization
brought me
to move forward.
the idea of bringing the sidewalk to the opposite side of the road. You know, just my normal thing is, well, why change something, but then after I looked at it and thought about it, it's a
Yeah.
much better solution for myself.
And we have to look at, if we're gonna put water and sewer lines in, how that really,
The
plays to
the
it.
easement is actually, there's more land on the golf course side, on the east side than there is on the other side. They did come through and do the surveying and they
Mhm.
did put up some stakes, and if you, all the utilities are, all the electrics over there is hugely over there.
on the east,
Yes.
on the east side, yeah.
It would be easier for the lights or whatever, if you're ever gonna do lights. And then on the west side, let's call it. I could do something maybe a little bit, we could talk about it as far as adding maybe 20 parking spots over there. On the 8th fairway side.
But what we're looking at here is just the engineering cost and then the ability to spend up to to
1.8.
bond up to
Yes.
1.8 million.
Yeah.
While we decide which one of these options we want to
But
choose.
I'm only bringing it up because I'm saying to you, I have what I think is valid reasons why I
Right.
prefer it on that side of the
Understood.
street. And there's positives to it. And there's no negatives on my side about moving it over
Okay.
there. Where it is today, it's not the
Right.
end of the world, but I'm just saying, if you're gonna move it or change the road. And if the bid comes in, yeah.
yeah, there are a number of different issues, but it is good to hear that
Right.
input, but there's also traffic calming, with the crosswalk there, and there are a few different options
Exactly.
to weigh.
Right, I would like to see more
Yes,
traffic calming measures on all these roads, because the roads that were built are about 60 feet wide, and they're meant to go, I mean, I start daydreaming on the roads, because they're so damn wide.
But I mean, we appreciate your your input here because you are the landowner
Well, I
on
own
either
both
side
sides
of
of it,
this
yeah.
for the whole, at least up to Snows Mountain Road,
And
correct?
we
For
try to
potentially.
maintain, I try to maintain
Right.
that road as best I can, by picking up trash and
Mhm.
keeping it clean as best I can.
Okay,
I just wanna make sure I understand, so the reconstruction goes all the way through West Branch Road?
Correct.
Yeah.
And then the plan is that you'll have a sidewalk on one side only through that point? Or it might
This-
possibly
It
jump back
could,
and
It
forth?
could
yes.
jump.
it could,
We have
depending which
different-
option we choose,
Go all the way down to West Branch.
yes.
Yes.
Oh, I'm just curious, have you been given any reasoning by the engineer or whoever had estimated that it's $400,000 more to put the sidewalk on the east side, and why?
Because when we put it on the east side, which is the upper side on that picture, right?
More
We
explanation?
have to move the road, physically move the road over. And when you do that, you have to do more sub work.
Oh, that makes sense.
So that's why it was the higher cost. If we put it on the west side, on the lower edge, then the road basically stays where it is. It can be reclaimed and only minimal base work would have to be done.
It also involves moving the crosswalk
Yeah,
down there,
Right,
yeah,
which adds
To the other
adds
side.
to the
that
expense.
adds expensive. Yeah, yeah, forget about that. Thank you, Bob.
That crosswalk right now is just a couple of painted lines though, so
Yeah,
And
but you
ADA
have,
plates as well,
what?
concrete and
ADA.
ADA plates.
in some.
That would have to be
concrete work,
removed.
Yeah.
I'll move it for like 200,000.
With respect to the sidewalk on the east side. which would be contiguous with the sidewalk by the tennis courts.
Right.
which are Where they are right
They're
there.
right.
The sidewalk by the tennis courts is, if you will, somewhat elevated.
Right.
Relative.
That would all be
That would all
replaced
be changed. That would all be changed.
So that would all be brought down to a
Yes.
common level.
to a
Yeah.
regular sidewalk,
Yep.
curbed
Yeah,
sidewalk.
is
Curb
it-
sidewalk.
That would actually be a lot better.
Yeah, Anna Louise?
So would it be possible to discuss with the current landowner, since he wants that sidewalk on that side where we would have to move the road, to see if there's a way to not have to move the road and make it cheaper to do it?
Well, the reason we have to move the road is because the road's not really in a good spot. It's actually too far on the west side at the
Yeah.
moment. The road is not really where it should be.
Doesn't go
Yeah.
down the middle of the right of way.
Right,
Oh.
It's
so
on one edge.
there's more land, right, but there's more land at the top in the road layout on the east side than there is on the west side.
All these considerations,
All
I think
these-
we will be discussing over the next year or
I mean,
so
obviously, I don't want
for
to.
town meeting in 2026.
You don't have a
Right.
price on it, so it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how that plays out, but again, the idea is to do the engineering this year and then to go to request what I have to be careful here, but what the engineers say would be the amount, if we were to choose the east side, which would be the more expensive of there are 3 options, but only 2 really are workable. And remember, we don't have, it's always up to that amount. It's not
Right.
that amount.
We'll move on to the second.
Yes. Oh, we have another
Just-
question?
Another-
Are we required to build the road a certain width?
Yes,
Okay.
Well, required, our regulations require a minimum traveled lane width. We want the roads to be at least 11 feet
And
wide
per-
per lane.
per DOT and everybody, it is 11.
Each
for
side,
each side.
so we,
Each
So
so we
total
22.
22.
I'm just saying, because narrower roads, people generally go slower.
Right.
And I just have one suggestion that I've made in the past, and I know it will be out of keeping with the way the rest of the town is done, but maybe as we move forward with road construction, is the double yellow lines that are everywhere are just like a signal, like you're on a highway, baby, crank it up. I think if you pull into town and you come off of 49 with the double yellow and you suddenly have no lines down the middle, I think people think they're on a country road and they slow
Hmm.
down. That's just my own personal opinion.
Yeah, and we'll address it with the engineers to make sure that we stay within regulations as well.
Yeah, there are a lot of traffic calming things we have to consider here, especially if we put the sidewalk on one side.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
there won't be any crosswalks, so that tends to slow down people too.
I can think of a reason for putting the sidewalk on the east, and I'll tell you what that is.
Hmm.
Will Lambert's people tend to park on the sidewalk on the other side
Right,
because there's no parking there, but they'll pull their trailer and their vehicles up and their trucks and such. And they'll park right down the middle of the sidewalk.
right.
And as
Further-
you're walking down and you're coming down, you get towards where that part is towards the end, right in there, a little further.
Yeah, yeah,
Because there's houses there that they service.
yeah,
You end up having to walk around, almost out in the road sometimes to
Yeah.
get around their vehicles.
yeah, no, that's an issue. It's always been an issue, and it's an issue now with at Snowsbrook Road with
So,
contractors
would-
and vendors using that as a convenient parking area.
right, but if we didn't have the sidewalk right there, they wouldn't be parking on the sidewalk.
Right,
It's just a consideration, it's something. to
right.
think about.
There are many.
Absolutely.
So why don't we move on
Yeah,
to
let's move on. Yeah.
the,
Next, we have West Branch Road. Obviously, it's in between our two rivers that we have, and so depending on the storm, banks will get jumped, issues with the road, when the bank gets jumped there. Specifically in this area, we had a lot of flooding in this section here during the 2023 storm. And it's just time for an overlay on West Branch. It's a moderately trafficked road. I would say Triple I is a little bit more heavily trafficked versus this portion of West Branch. It's used by the residents and the ever few guests that come into town. But since we are proposing to do Triple I, wanted to finish out this section up to the bridge, and the bridge has its own cost as well for just taking down the pavement. You'll see cracks where there should be joints for it to be able to shift and move. So that's a separate cost. And then since we're proposing West Branch, we are also proposing River Road, which we'll talk about next as well. But both those just to help increase safety and increase the life of the road versus letting it deteriorate like other roads like Boulder Path and such. Just keeping them on a life versus having to fully reconstruct it. So.
Yeah, River Road is a good example of an overlay that will extend the life rather than a rebuild.
Mhm.
What's the length of River Road right there?
What's the what?
Length, how far is it? Is it a mile? Is it a half
No.
mile?
No.
A quarter to a third.
Quarter mile,
Maybe
Quarter mile?
quarter.
Do we know?
if that.
We should have those numbers.
I can give you the-
I'm trying to get an estimate in my mind, and the reason I ask these questions is for what it's costing us to do an overlay per quarter mile or half mile or mile or whatever.
So River Road is approximately 1,100 feet by 19 feet, so it's 19 feet wide. And then so starting from here, coming all the way around to here is about 1,100.
It's 19 feet wide, but it's not 22.
No,
It's
is
not.
It was built as a private road that the town accepted the maintenance of, and our right of way is too narrow for a 22-foot road.
Okay.
And then the town portion of West Branch, which is from, there's an electrical substation down to, I call it the
The
Met
bridge.
River Bridge,
Yeah.
is approximately the same length as River Road.
Okay.
I thought it was built to town specs, is what Margaret had said.
The base material is all town spec, but the width of the pavement is not. And we knew that going into the. It's really a very good road. It handles drainage pretty well.
Mhm.
It's,
And
and
the
it's lightly traveled.
past 2 years, the crew has done a lot of work on fixing a lot of the manholes and the gate boxes on both West Branch and River Road. So they are rebuilt, ready just for an overlay, so.
And if you remember when we assumed the maintenance of River Road, it was also the same time we were doing the major water sewer project to install the sewer line out there. So we wanted it to be in a town road.
How thick will that overlay be?
Roughly 1.5 inches.
Won't be very.
So we're gonna do an inch and a half over. Okay.
We'll shim it first, so it'll put a layer down just to fill in all the potholes, and then the 1.5 inches will go on top of that.
Okay. And what do we believe the service life for that will be?
We can ask the engineers.
I'll ask you again.
Well, I'm
So-
asking for a reason, the question, because at some point we'll have to redo it. So is it good for, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years?
Won't be in
et
our
cetera?
lifetime.
That's why I'm.
Especially a more
That's not
Unless
residential,
you're planning on living-
especially a more residential road like River
Yeah,
Road
small-
versus
a
like
small
Valley
residential road
Road,
like this,
you know.
20
Right.
years
Okay.
or more. Should
I'm
be,
just trying to get a
These
sense of where we're going with all this.
Unless West Branch gets high, the river gets higher and
Yeah,
higher.
exactly.
That's, but those are good questions to have answers for.
Absolutely. And we'll have those answers in case anybody asks in the town meeting or any point in time.
Thank you.
Next one.
Packard. So obviously we've done pretty much all of Valley for the most part, Tecumseh, Snowsbrook. We're just wanting to finish and connect with the new pavement, hopefully here on Valley as well. Just want to connect the loop that is well traveled by transient and residents, especially with the conference center being here. And the Golden Eagle has a lot of traffic as well, so just looking to finish out that loop.
A little bit, nothing to do with roads, but that Packard Field, which is a pretty good asset for the town. Huge water problem out there.
Mhm.
Is there any way you can help? Throw a little drain,
So
There's
we've
something
looked at the
wrong.
road, yeah, so we've looked at the road and any water runoff that comes off of Packard's isn't affecting Packard's field at all. It's actually coming further up, and from a stream here that is in the next slide, I believe, that we're looking to address. But the main problems that go with the water in Packard's field is the stream here and the runoff that comes off of Valley on this side.
I mean, it should be you can address it,
Yeah, in this project and then
yeah.
the
'Cause
road
it's a
further up.
Great place and it just should be used, Brooke had me look at it once and I said, you've got a huge water problem out there. And the water doesn't work well with the grass.
Yes. But that brings us to Valley. So right now, this culvert here, is a 48-inch by, I don't know the length off the top of my head right now. But a 48-inch wide double barrel culvert, so it's two of them next to each other. One of which has sunk due to the 2023 storm. And so there was actually a sinkhole on Valley. Don't know if y'all saw the barrel throughout the summer or not, but we did intermediately fix the issue with some flow fill just to get us out to rebuilding and fixing and or replacing this with a much needed upgrade or bringing it to regulations. This culvert has also failed, which is why it's in here. And there's also a failed culvert right here as well. This
Failed
would
maybe
also
crushed or
just over time, water rusted and just fallen through. It's just pretty much dirt.
It
at
is
this
not
point.
passing the
galvanized.
water that it should.
It's galvanized, yeah. So we moved from galvanized due to the issue of it rusting and falling apart. We moved to an HDPE or concrete, depending on what we have going on. Like we put a box concrete culvert over off of Tecumseh, and that is what we are proposing here for FEMA mitigation and repair as well.
This will only be done if the FEMA funding is guaranteed in writing before we start, because all of the FEMA funding is a reimbursement. So before we start expending money, we will have it in writing, the exact project and that we are gonna get the money.
And part of what was good that Megan worked out with the FJ, FEMA, is you can build it back better, right? So you're,
So the big culvert at the very top in the green box will actually, so a regular FEMA project is funded 80% FEMA, 20% the town. The green box, if we replace that culvert with a concrete culvert, that will be considered
Mitigation.
mitigation, not remediation. And we will get 100% of the cost of the culvert. That's why you have $769,000 there as the FEMA share, because they'll be paying 100% of that culvert work. And then they'll be paying 80% of the rest of the work.
So if we don't get the FEMA
If we don't
letter,
get
we
the
won't do anything along that whole.
The only
Wow.
thing that we would potentially look at doing with that 224,000 is a shim and overlay to save the surface of the road. And maybe some additional flow fill or something to fill in the top of the.
But it's not gonna
culvert
fix it.
area.
No,
But it
this will
won't.
not fix
At
it.
some
It will
point,
not fix anything.
Okay,
So if we don't have them, sorry, I've been trying to talk for a while.
Yes, I'm-
Yeah.
So if we don't get the FEMA money, we're not doing anything, we don't have a backup plan.
So if we do not get the FEMA money, this
culverts.
will not happen.
Okay,
We have the possibility of flow filling it, which we've done just to help stabilize the earth underneath the road so it does not collapse further.
okay, so, but then we say if we get a written agreement that we'll get the money, we can do it. But it's gonna be a reimbursement, you say, so it's still a risk for us because FEMA money can still disappear.
Correct.
So that could be a huge risk for us.
mhm.
So
A
this
700
particular
and
section of
$800,000 risk.
road is not just an overlay. You're talking
This
about
So
is
this-
carrying it up all the way
No.
between the orange there and the green.
This here
Yeah.
is just an overlay. So this road was built to state spec.
Specs.
So underneath here is, and
Okay,
like we
Just like
found
Route
here on the
49.
rest.
so then why would the cost of doing an overlay for such a short section there be so high relative to the overlay we would do in another area such as River Road?
It may not take the entire 224,000. We would just use that portion of the 224.
So,
In
but
order to
that,
do
that
that.
cost also includes
Replacing the
replacing,
culverts.
digging up and replacing these two culverts.
The whole program was built with FEMA at the time, so
Mhm.
that's why
Yeah.
it's that amount.
So
It
that's,
just looks a little,
so
the
that-
cost looks a little out of.
So the
relative
cost,
to
so the
other
cost you
costs.
have there is 20% of the two smaller culverts and the road.
Yes,
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 And
you
we
got it.
expect to get 100% of the bigger culvert,
correct,
80% of the other two.
correct.
right.
So it's pretty expensive to do the culverts.
And if there
Yeah.
is no FEMA money at all, we would do 100% of this
This one?
culvert, and the overlay.
Okay.
For a
And
quarter million.
for the 224, we would use whatever we would need to do that work. Because these two culverts have failed, they are not draining properly at all.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
the
accept that.
water builds up over by the athletic center. Right by their entrance, we've got to address that. Like Craig said, we've got to get that water to flow into the drainage ditch that's right beside Packard's Field. You know, that would all be part of the work that we would do.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm
So-
just looking at the numbers and it was what, 48,000 or 38,000 on one road and then for pretty much similar length, we're now.
Wider, this road's wider.
Well, this road is
That would have
much
been
wider, well, we've got
How
a
wide is this one?
75-foot right of way in there,
Mhm.
so. It's mostly the drainage work that we would have to do that's eating up a lot of that cost. And we don't have to use the entire
You know, I'm just
224,000.
trying to understand.
Okay.
Well, that was, that number was achieved with working with FEMA
Right.
for the total
Yeah.
project.
Yeah,
That's right.
this
So-
number is our 20% number for the whole project.
For the whole
So
project.
if we do a reduced project, it probably will not be that total.
When we walk like those trails out there, there's one area that goes under the road. Is
Yep.
that one of these?
So
It's
you
next
have
to it.
the concrete pedestrian walkway is what we call
Mm-hmm.
it, that is here, and you have the double barrel that is adjacent to it on
Right
this
beside
side.
Okay.
You can go down and look if you want.
That will not get touched, it will not get disturbed.
Could you do something so it doesn't stay flooded all year?
Uh,
Cause you have to end up walking
Well,
around.
but,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
actually if
Mhm.
we do this culvert and do it the way that the engineers and the contractor are talking about, we'll be improving the inlet side of this,
Okay.
and that should help that.
That cross-country trail.
But
That
that
goes
pedestrian thing is still a low point, so
It is a
it's
low
gonna
point,
be
it's gonna
hard
get
to,
lower.
yeah.
But I mean, we are gonna
Yes,
fix the wing
make it
walls
better.
and
Yeah.
we're gonna make it better.
Okay, thank you.
No,
Okay.
I knew put my glasses
Oh.
on, sorry.
So when I look at this, it infers that just doing the green box alone is $769,000.
No,
No,
the green box and 80% of everything else is $769,000.
Except resurfacing.
No, it's even
Including?
80% of the resurfacing.
Oh, we get 80%.
It's the whole
We get
project.
the
Oh,
whole
because
project.
It's-
the
it's-
whole
remediation.
project.
The whole project.
This is
Oh.
80% of the entire project plus, well, except for the culvert, which is 100%.
Okay.
Isn't
Okay.
FEMA's trying to get towns to fix stuff before they have huge disasters like they had in
Right.
North Carolina that cost, hundreds of millions? of
Yeah,
dollars?
they have two
Funding
teams. They
projects.
actually have two separate teams. They have the remediation team who comes and helps you repair what was damaged. But then they have a mitigation team and they come out and they look and say, well, if you do this, we're less likely to have to come back with the remediation.
Right.
And that's where these numbers come from.
And that's
We,
why.
we've been
That's why
talking.
the 100% to pay for the mitigation is better for them, because they don't have to pay 80% again if it just washes out.
Yeah.
Good point. And there's another road. We can talk about another road that fits that same bill, right, Megan?
Move to triple I.
Triple I Road.
Yeah.
So we do not own Triple I Road. It is Forest Service owned. But we do have an agreement with them that we maintain the road. And with it being a second point of egress for the town itself and the people on West Branch, it has to stay open in the winter, so that's why it is maintained by us. And so we're looking to do an overlay on this road and address and mitigate two culverts here and there. The river jumped its bank up further top, up in the section that is Forest Service gravel road. Jumped, came down, filled up this culvert completely. It was just too much water for it to handle. It was too small. It's an 18-inch culvert. And it went down the side of the road, ate a lot of the side of the road, came down to this culvert, filled it, and then it, again, too small, it was an 18-inch culvert, jumped the road, came across here, ate more of the road here. We reinforced the shoulders and the road itself over this past summer to help address the issue in the time being. But we are looking to put the surface back at a usable surface. If you don't travel Triple I Road in the winter or at all in the summer, I would encourage you to do it before before we shim and overlay Triple I Road, because there is lots of potholes that we are fixing constantly with cold patch or just with a paving contractor. And so looking to prolong the life of this road and help mitigate those two culverts there, help mitigate the water from actually tearing up the road in the future.
So I think we have a change here.
Yeah.
Now, from what we
This-
presented.
If you remember the bond hearing, there was a $1.1 million project that we talked about for Triple I Road. That was a gross budget appropriation, the total cost of the project to do everything that Megan just described.
Yeah.
We were gonna have to pay 20% of that, and so there was a $230,000 bond that was part of that warrant article. We have gotten further information that FEMA cannot spend money for a complete road rebuild, because this road is not owned by the town. It is owned by the Forest Service, and they can't spend FEMA money fixing another federal agency's land. Okay?
Okay.
So we have removed that warrant article out. And we're looking at making repairs at the culvert sites, smaller repairs. And just overlaying the road. FEMA has told us that they think they can get the 80% of the cost of doing this much rather than rebuilding the base of the road and everything, just doing the overlay and doing the two culvert areas, they think they can provide us with 80% of that cost. That cost is about $126,000 to do the two culverts and the overlay of this entire
Entire section.
orange, right?
Including the bridge or?
No.
So the bridge would not get paved, via the Forest Service. We've been working at this for
Right.
quite a while. We are going to put back, wood wear boards, so it'll go back to a completely wooden bridge.
So if during 2025 FEMA confirms in writing that they can provide us with that 80% money, our share would be $26,000. And we already have remaining monies from appropriations that town meeting has made in prior years for road repairs. We'll use some of that money as the town share. And then the board has already been empowered by town meeting to accept unanticipated money during the year. So they can accept the FEMA money. We use the existing road money and we'll do the overlay. We're hoping that we can get an answer early enough in the spring to get on a contractor's work list to do this work this summer. So that's why that warrant article is gone. And we'll deal with it if we can. If not, we'll come back potentially in 2026 with another plan. But we'll work with FEMA and, you've seen it all in the news, right there.
Can you repeat the
Everybody's
numbers again, if we just do the overlay and the culverts there?
about 126,000.
126,
Yeah.
so,
Our share would be about 20.
and our risk would be about 100.
And and FEMA would pay.
That would be
the
a
other.
risk.
That'd be a risk.
That would be a risk. But again, we won't even start to plan that until they tell us.
I just
One way or
don't
the
even trust them even if they tell you that's.
That is a thing
So
that
even
the
if
select
it doesn't
board,
matter.
the select
Still a
board
risk.
is absolutely.
But you know,
We're
if
gonna
this
have to
road
talk
isn't, if we don't work on this road and
It's
the
gonna
Forest
fall.
Service shuts it down, then everyone who's going to
I
Livermore
understand.
Parking are gonna come through town, West Branch up to the parking area, so.
Where do we get the money from? That's the thing.
I just have a comment on the traffic volume. You
Mhm.
say this one's high, but West Branch was low or moderate.
Moderate.
I would say they're the same.
Okay.
Because where else are you going to or from on that stretch, especially in the winter? Other than West Branch, so you're going and coming from there. And West Branch, most of the traffic I see on that road is
Mhm.
going too fast, and they're not from West Branch Road or River Road.
Mhm.
They're coming from other parts, and they're going fast to
Mhm.
get to the mountain.
Mhm.
So that's just a comment. It's not moderate
Okay.
on West Branch compared to this.
Have we had the traffic counters on that road is it North Country Council? That's the,
Council.
have they done, can we get that on Triple I and on West Branch? I think I've seen them out there, but not, I don't, yeah, we get a better
We'll
feel
check
for
with
that,
their Traffic people.
So
yeah.
I have one comment with respect to that section of road there, and that is that there's some frost heaving and such in there as well.
Mhm.
It's gonna be a little bit more than just the simple overlay, I think, to make it
Well,
even remotely
and
smooth.
that's why we had $1 million project,
Correct.
because we were trying to address the base.
So the question in my mind is, it doesn't make sense to try and do an overlay there. Because there are sections of that road where you're bouncing along. I know, because I go that way to the mountain.
And you don't live on West Branch
No, of
or
course
River
not.
Road?
Did you drive fast?
Right?
Did you drive fast?
Actually drive fast.
It's a relative term.
The road's just messed up. And at some level, the roads get, the fact is, we live in a winter environment and the roads get messed up. So what is the, efficacy of what we're doing here,
Well,
right? I mean, it might help in some sections of it, but I can see.
How else do you get to
certainly
Livermore
not.
parking? If you're coming up to the valley,
What was that?
how else do you get to the Livermore trailhead parking area?
West Branch.
That's right.
so people will come through town and all our town roads, rather than, I see this as a bypass.
Yeah.
Especially in the summer, I think, when people go camping on Triple A Road.
I mean, that's what's driving us to, that's why I think why we took it over,
The
right,
other
the
issue-
maintenance.
Right.
And the other
Yeah.
issue that we were having when we were talking about the $1 million project was we will need Forest Service permits, including environmental impact permits, everything else.
Corps of Engineers.
And the Army Corps of Engineers will get involved if we do a complete rebuild on this road. Now, if we want to go that way, we certainly can, but we won't be doing anything to this road in the next 2 to 3 years if we do a complete rebuild. The nice thing about the FEMA money, often you can get out of doing a lot of the permitting that's required if you're doing it just with
And
our
overlay,
own,
yeah.
an overlay, or if you're doing it even as our own standalone project. You know, if we raised the full $1 million out of town money and then went to the Forest Service and said, we want to rebuild this section of I Road, they're gonna make us do a lot more work than what we were talking about doing on the permitting side, when we were talking about the FEMA money. That's just the way it happens. You know,
Which is
it's-
interesting, because if we left it up to them, they would do nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah, they would close it.
Exactly.
It would be closed at
it would be
ski area
closed out
road,
the Ski area.
yeah.
Talk to the state at all?
No, they do
Because
not.
you're coming
not
right up
up
to the state road.
No, they don't care. They would put
Well, I
a,
mean,
they
have you
put the
talked to them
gate,
or not?
yes, we have.
Are you
We-
talking about because we are coming to the state road?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked with them.
And, I mean, this is an emergency access road.
But
No.
not from the state
Not from the state.
standpoint.
The whole nother,
It's our
Whole nother
emergency
issue.
access road.
As the state did come in here back in '60s and did a
This-
lot of their road work.
The state has a right of way that ends at Ski Area Road. It does not include I Road from that intersection to Depot Camp. If they had a state right of way there, then we could work with the state and it would be a completely different set of rules that we would be working.
The state did come in here in '65, '66, and brought in 49 all the way down. They did that, they still maintain that
They-
road,
They,
and that was not a state road prior to that.
they brought 49 all the way to BBTS and they
Right.
stopped.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, maybe the state might be easier to deal with than.
Well, we've already done one project since I've been here. On I Road, we did like a 2-foot.
Yeah.
We had to get permits from the Forest Service to do that. And the state said, absolutely, we have nothing to do with this. It's between the town and the Forest Service, so. That's. You know,
the reality.
the reality of that.
Question?
Okay, so
Wait, we got a question over here.
It's related but different. That bridge isn't very sturdy. Or it doesn't, I mean, it's a 1-lane bridge. If we need to use that as emergency evac, is it gonna be standing when people need it?
Yes, so it was evaluated after the storm and it was found to not have any damage and is structurally fine.
Okay, it wasn't underwater,
It was
It was
not.
not.
just the
In fact, that was probably the best bridge,
best bridge. All right.
yeah,
Right,
of the small ones.
and you don't even wanna know the trouble the town has gone through to try to even do anything on the surface of that bridge.
It actually went
it's
to
crazy.
Wisconsin, the question whether or not we could take the pavement off of that bridge went to the Forest Service in Wisconsin.
You can't maintain the pavement because it's on top of
Yeah.
boards.
Yeah.
You just can't maintain it.
And all we wanted to do was take it off and put.
At our expense,
At our expense,
right.
and the Forest Service wouldn't give us permission to do it. It's just silly
Until now.
sometimes,
Do it on Sunday.
Until now.
until now we got the go ahead, we're gonna do it this summer
Mhm.
before they change their mind.
So I have 1 or 2 other questions or comments. So let's say we appropriate all this money and we have it. all these little road projects. What's our ability to get it done within the year? We've had challenges historically, I think, getting appropriate contractors in here with appropriate equipment and so forth to actually complete the tasks. And in this case, we have a pretty significant set of projects together. So
So
what's the vision there and how are we gonna make this work?
So I've talked
You-
with many different contractors and gotten many different quotes for all of the roads that we are talking about.
Yeah.
And essentially, they told me as soon as I know in March whether or not the funds are appropriated, they're prepared to start the overlays in either spring, depending on what we choose, spring on the roads, which roads we choose first, spring into the summer. So,
Only on the small roads. We are not doing Boulder Path Road.
That's just an engineering
So
and
just
Snows
five
Mountain.
hundred thousand of the 2,000,003 is all and not even all of the 500,000 might be done this year. The small roads that we just reviewed are the ones that we're trying to get done this summer. There will be nothing done on Boulder Path Road this year.
Well, also Triple I.
Triple I, we could potentially do because we already have money appropriated for it. If we got the go ahead from FEMA.
What's your priority order for doing these roads? So we have different sections and.
The
and
small
different pieces.
roads, the small roads, everything minus Boulder Path and Triple I are the priority roads for this summer.
No, but you gotta start with one. I can't
I
start with
don't,
five.
I don't know out of those, well, it is all five to get them done. That's that's what we're gonna work
I
on.
understand that, but ultimately we have to start with one.
Well, we have
When they
not,
start in
the board
spring,
has not talked
it
about
doesn't
that
make
yet.
sense necessarily to start on River Road.
The board,
It is
Maybe
kind of
start
hard
on
to
different-
plan it before funds are appropriated
Mhm.
too. I mean,
But we should
Cart
have
before
a
horse type
vision going into.
I
this
think
and
the
understanding
underlying your
what we
question,
see.
Dan, maybe, are there any priorities in these roads? I think, is that what you're getting at?
Yeah,
I mean,
look
I
at
think
that.
it's just,
We have severe drainage problems there that are going to need to be fixed and are causing problems and flooding and so forth. Maybe that should be our number one priority here and so forth, maybe. You know,
On the other hand,
Valley-
on the other hand, maybe you want to
Yes.
delay that one to find out if you're gonna get anything from FEMA.
exactly.
yeah.
You might want to make that one last.
Exactly.
Right.
And so the board has not had that level of discussion, other than identifying these roads as what we want
this
to
year.
apply for this year. That's,
I would
that's the
suggest
list.
that's a discussion that needs to be had, if you will. Just so that,
oh yeah, no, that's, once we
certainly-
have the money authorized.
certainly going into major projects and such, I think you have to set your priorities. Understand, because at some point money may run out
Yeah.
or you may have, scheduling and contracting challenges.
Well, that's usually what happens,
And
actually.
that's, right.
That's
and
what
why
really
it's-
drives our projects,
Well,
frankly.
exactly.
And we're hostage to that,
So Rich, exactly, I agree with you.
yeah.
And that's why I asked these questions, because I think we need to get a good feel of where we're going on these with
Yeah.
respect to the priorities, what has to happen, what is going to
Yeah.
happen first.
Yeah, I think,
'Cause
I
at some point, they might run out of time,
no, I think after, and they do, actually.
and they do.
And it extends into the following year. I think once we have, the money approved by town meeting, I think we would sit down as a board and try to determine, as best we can, what we think our priorities are, but we're still gonna be held hostage to, what contracts we can, you know, make. But the idea is to get it done this year.
Yeah,
I mean, that's,
well, I understand the idea, I'm just talking about, we have these practical realities, because we live at the, 10 miles off of an interstate. And
Mhm.
at some level, it's a challenge to get the resources in here
Mhm.
to actually complete some of these tasks.
I think you'll see that we're often hostage to what the companies, what projects the companies have and where we fit on their schedule.
Right.
And we're not exactly big dogs in this
Well.
particular discussion as far as their projects are concerned.
Now, when we as a town put these out for bid, are we grouping them or are we putting them out with individual bids? And potentially taking, 4 different contractors or,
Depends.
It depends. Generally, we try to group them together because the larger the amount of work, the larger the amount of pavement that they're putting down, the better cost per ton we're going to get. And
The more likely they'll pay attention to
would-
us.
the more likely they are to
Right.
actually come in and do the work.
Yeah.
So we do not break it down
Right.
by road.
We do have a very good relationship with Piper. I think we've been happy with them. They will be one of the bidders, I'm sure, on this.
Can I ask you, if you put an RFP
Mm-hmm.
out, you should have a list of equipment. You might like Piper, but they don't own the equipment.
Mhm.
I mean, if you hire a painter, you wanna know he owns a ladder. I think if you did the overlay, she could do it. Just call Continental or Pike, I mean, they'll come out and do it.
Mhm.
I mean, that's, Piper can't.
No, I mean, we do, I mean, make those considerations once we actually sit down and focus on specific projects.
I mean, but you mentioned Pike, and they overlooked a lot of stuff and they
Well,
could care less.
I think, well, that may be open to
So
some
right on the
discussion,
thing
but I
here
think
where
those
it
are
says-
extensions of a
You
contract
talk about,
since they were here.
right, I'm just reading this right here where it talks about replace all galvanized piping regardless of condition. Well, they didn't do that.
Mhm.
They refused to do it, actually. So I see that what you've got written here is not really correct. Because you left galvanized piping under Valley Road,
So that was,
and the other one got replaced by previously because it failed, and they were both done the same time originally, like 60 years ago. And they didn't, I'm just saying, I think you should look at the bids a little differently.
Okay,
You just don't look at ones that show up. I mean, I know Continental and I know Pike, well, they're the only ones that have, there's one other plant in the state, there's only 3 plants in the state. So,
all right, thank you. Someone has, I think is there a hand back there? No? Anything further from anyone? The board have anything further to say? Does anyone in the audience have anything?
Thanks for answering all my questions.
You are very welcome, Dan.
I have a lot of questions.
well, the only problem I have is that we go to town meeting, we spend the time to go to town meeting, vote for items. And then our explanations are all written out, the explanations are awesome. And then it changes,
It does change. I will not disagree with you.
but that's not fair for us that wanna come to these meetings, our taste, to listen to it.
Mhm.
Take the time and come, and then find out it's totally different the next day.
Mhm.
I just think that's, in private sector, that's different, you do whatever you want, private company, but it's how you appropriate money. It should not be, lack of a better word, one big slush fund.
Well, obviously we have a
I don't think why you can't.
difference. I don't think it's a slush fund. I mean, I think
You're
we
not
look at
listing
each
roads.
project
You're not gonna list the roads, I refuse to list the roads,
because we want the flexibility depending upon what we can get for bids
that
and,
gets slushy.
well, it's how we,
That's not how a town operates, that's why we have town meetings.
Mhm.
It's not the same as a private company.
Well, I think, I mean,
You're asking us to
okay.
participate as residents and taxpayers, and then you blatantly do something different. Maybe a valid reason, maybe not a valid reason, I don't know, we don't know.
Well, I think the
Well,
tough thing is,
yeah.
sorry.
No,
that-
please.
That different things do come up and
Yeah,
it's
obviously.
always we do establish a plan, we have the warrant articles, we spend a ridiculous amount of time figuring it out to move it forward. And that is what we want our plan to be, but I think life does happen. And if something else becomes unpassable, it would be negligent of us to not address another problem that arises.
I'm not talking about emergency, I'm talking about just items.
Well, I mean, we
guess I'm
do,
not sure what you've
well,
seen.
yeah, I
that
mean, we do
hasn't-
pursue the road, I mean, we do say in our discussion, these are the roads that we are
Right.
addressing in 2025.
Do you have a specific thing you're talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah.
I'm not sure what
No,
you're talking
I mean,
about.
the like last 2 years of the Valley Road, the project totally changed from year to year.
What do you mean? it's
Well, on
totally
Valley
changed?
Road.
I don't get it. I
They
don't get
did-
what you're saying.
They didn't come all the way up and they didn't do some drainage work and they did drainage work
You
down
mean
below.
coming
I
around
mean,
in
from
front of-
Snowsbrook,
Yeah, I'm just saying, I'm not accusing anything, there's nothing wrong and there's everything's done. I'm just saying is that as a a town meeting, go to town meeting
Yeah.
to vote on stuff.
I mean, it changed as they looked at the conditions of the road and opened things up and saw some of the difficulties and the problems that existed that we didn't know before they opened the road. I mean, is that what you're referring to?
A little bit, maybe have better engineering plans ahead of time, I guess, or.
When you say it's totally changed, though, I think that's an exaggeration.
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
When you say the plan's totally
You're
changed,
not telling us exactly what road is gonna get paved next summer.
we
Well,
just told you.
did.
We just.
Which
We
road?
just told you what we're gonna do.
You just said, these are all the roads that we own, and these are what we're gonna do, try to do.
That's right.
And if
Yeah.
it changes, based on FEMA and whatnot, it will totally change.
Yeah, it's
Right.
very possible.
And
Right.
to be responsible with funding. I mean,
Yeah.
we can't say
But I mean,
we're gonna ignore $1 million from FEMA.
and we do it in, I mean, we do it in a public meeting when we have to make a change. I mean, we discuss each one of these contracts.
I know, I'm just saying.
Okay.
Observation, not accusing anything.
No, I mean, I think I understand.
Yeah, I just would like to go to vote and know what I'm voting for, I guess. Unless you
Alright.
just say, $6 million, we're doing all the roads.
I think you're exaggerating and, you say we didn't do a drainage ditch here. That's not changing the whole project, which is what you're implying. I mean,
I didn't imply
I
anything.
think
I
it's
just said-
insulting what you're saying.
I'm not
actually.
trying to insult you, I'm just saying, if
Well, I think you are.
I would like to have the explanations are awesome, and I don't see why we can't put those in the warrant, I mean, actually part of the warrant.
Well, I think as we discussed in the past, Craig, if we list specific roads in the warrant article, that
Yeah.
does limit us. And if something changes, whether the amount changes or something else comes up that we need to attend to, we will not have the flexibility as a board to deal with that. And then we do deal with it, but they're through public meetings. We explain why we need to make changes to our
But we're
original.
responsible, I can't come to all public meetings, I'm not saying, I'm not choosing anybody. It's like if we
Right.
vote for a fire truck, I kind of expect a red fire truck,
Yeah,
not a, honey wagon or something. So I mean, I don't know why it can't be more specific, I mean, I've done business in other towns. We've actually had roads laid out, and this is what you're voting on.
all right. I mean, it's
I
The
think
nature of the
I think you
beast.
saw that.
No, this.
Yeah. Patty.
A comment.
All right, thank you.
I signed up to receive email for everything the town would email. One of the things I used to get email about was when minutes were approved and the minutes would be posted, I would get an email. I haven't gotten one with minutes in
Yeah.
quite a while.
Okay.
Is that?
Okay, I don't know. We'll look at that. All right. It's different from, I mean, it's different from a fire truck, but
Right, so you have to watch the recording to get what happened.
Yeah, no, the
Or keep
minute,
checking to see have the minutes been posted.
no, those,
So it's
those
nice to get
notice.
the email.
yeah, no, that should be
Yeah.
fixed.
all right, we'll look into it. I just don't know. We good? We done? Anybody else? Are we done? We're done?
Done?
Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll take a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.